Welcome to my humble little office. My name is R. Keith Andrews. I'm a spiritual guide and paranormal adept. The journey continues today on March 7th, 2023 at approximately 4:24 p.m. PST. Now, I return to this world for one primary purpose, and that is to remind people that working together, we can make this a better world for virtually everybody. I bill myself as a spiritual guide because the tools I offer are the same tools I personally work with, and the philosophies of life I talk about are the ones I personally live by. Now we have right off the bat here. Let's see, we've got YJM with the gold. Adam, how you doing? You've got the silver today. And Henry, nicely done. You're coming in with the bronze. So hopefully things are going well, guys. Hey, nicely done. Talking about a jump. Well, not much of a jump, but we are now 480 subscriptions. Okay, we are 20 shy of the we are 20 shy of the 500 mark, of the halfway point. Still having fun with my throat apparently, so I'll have to live with that. Wish I knew exactly what was causing it, but I did, however, find out something rather remarkable. I've been having trouble with my leg lately, but I finally figured out why. And that why would be because of the fact that my electrolytes are apparently off. Now, I'm looking today, or we're looking today, at the link between the consciousness and the subconscious and how to work with it. Now, I've talked on some of this before, but to start it off in a real simple term, okay, but before I get into that, if you've got questions, even if they're not in the same topic we're discussing, do me a favor and absolutely, absolutely put those questions in all caps so I can find them. And one of these days I will figure out exactly what is going on with my throat. Because you'd think it would actually work a little better for me. But apparently not. Anyway, we all know what the conscious does. Okay, and how that all works. But what most people don't realize is that it's driven by your subconscious desire beforehand. In simplest terms, your thoughts start on the upper levels. They start in the etheric plane. Okay, now once that thought is formulated, it's pulled into the brain. Then and there it goes into either the logic side or the instinctive side or the creative side, depending on what the thought line is. Okay, and the reason for that is because it's got to go through the brain before you can get it to manifest. Now, we are driven by two factors. One, a recognized desire, a recognized requirement, or two, a desire. But the catch is that until that drive hits both of those sections, as in, when your mind can conceive it and your heart can believe it, then you can achieve it. Okay, this is the way I've lived my life, pretty much. Don't need that there. The fact of the matter is, your conscious is what gives you the physical drive to get things done, but it's your subconscious that sets up that emotional imperative. Okay, many people are driven by their subconscious. Okay, that's the thing you don't control. When you're thinking in health terms, okay, the conscious mind controls all of your decided actions. The subconscious mind is Senior Pent, how you doing? Now, I am curious, is that Senior Pent or just Sir Pent? But, that being said, welcome aboard. Glad you could join us. And I do believe Let me just quickly check. Gold, silver, bronze. Hey, Serpent, we have you in with the. We'll try that in English, shall we? With honorable mention. Yeah, that's very much the case there, YJ. Thank you so much for that reminder. I will tell you, according to what Dave told me, I need 4,000 hours of viewing to do the other half of it. Well, a couple of days ago, I was already at 5,800. So I'm already in the bid on that one. And just a quick note, and we will have to make sure we talk to Marcus when he gets in here. I keep doing that to Eric. When Eric Markham gets in here, we are going to have to remember I'm supposed to be doing a show with him tonight after this one. Only I don't know the actual website or the actual YouTube channel. So we're going to have to make sure we get that from him. But the subconscious is what drives your breathing, your heart rate, the blood circulation. That's all stuff that you don't have to pay attention to. Unless if you pay attention to the blonde jokes you have to be blonde, at which point you might need help. Now, the neat part about it from my end is that we're looking at a couple of things here. Now, I can think about desiring this guy to be painted, but the reality is, unless I actually do something with it, it's not happening. Now, I've gone this particular horse is because, well, it's actually a mule. One of the characters in the game that I play in on Sundays, he's got a character that happens to have a pack mule. He was very adamant he wanted it, so I decided we were going to make it a little bit more direct and get it for him. I am going to have to make sure I keep those on because I cannot read a dang thing here. Hey, attorney, how you doing? Oh, he absolutely is there, YJ. YJ's just saying Eric is a highly articulate and intelligent fella. He really is. We usually get tied up in conversations. It was funny, a couple of days ago, I finally got a hold of him because both of us have absolutely silly kind of schedules. So I got a hold of him and we were actually on the phone. I kid you not. We were on the phone for 5 hours. I don't know how many different topics we got to, but it was a remarkable conversation. And the funny thing is, we've talked about doing this before, many times before, but this will be the first time we managed it. When you look at the conscious mind, okay, this is why I say there is very little on the planet that you cannot do. There's a lot I'd recommend you don't bother with. But, the fact of the matter is, once you set your mind to something, if you pay attention to it, you can accomplish pretty much anything. It's just a question of setting up. Now, that's one of the things we've got to look at today, is how do you go about making sure that what you're planning on doing is going to come to fruition? Because the reality is, people do not plan to fail, they simply fail to plan. Which is why I came to the conclusion with this, like this horse, this mule, was just brought into existence in the game, just this past Sunday. The character decided, no, I require a mule. So in the game, he goes out and buys it. And I am taking that side of it and going, okay. He desired to have this mule, so I am giving it physical form. But this is a conscious choice. Okay, because think about it. You cannot physically do something just on a subconscious whim. It just doesn't work out that way. It doesn't work well that way. Okay, but the conscious mind is how you change the world around you. By going, this is what I desire to accomplish. This is what I am going to do. Okay, Now, anything that you have to decide deliberately to do is relegated to the conscious mind, whether it is creative or it is logical. In any event, it is that conscious decision that makes it possible. Now, let me ask you this, and I've mentioned this to you guys before, but who here has a goal that they've been thinking of doing and just keep putting off? Hey, Football, glad you could join us. Yeah, I do the same. I do exactly the same thing. I mean, the reality there, YJ, is I've talked about the power of the list before. Okay, and what I mean by that is by giving yourself short little goals, you will be far more likely to attain the goals that you're aiming at. It's just one of those neat little things that works. This particular little critter, this is going to be an endeavor. Now, I'm not going to stay working on this for very long. I just got started on it, went, better get it done. But here's the thing. I was talking to somebody today, and let's put that down because it's just going to distract me for a minute. I made the decision, that I was going to get things sorted around. I was going to get all the books working at the same time. Well, this morning, now that was a conscious choice. The subconscious, in a lot of ways, really is this ongoing drive to make absolutely certain I get all these books into print. But I now have updated on my desktop. Where are we here? On my desktop, if I go here, shrink that down, that can be minimized, that can be minimized. Okay, I've got all 12 of the Yldrbacian of the books on the Yldrbacian Chronicle. Okay, I've got them all set and moving in the right direction. I get a kick out of it. Like YJ's just gone, he makes a list on a chalkboard right at his front door. So he looks at it on the way out and crosses them off when he gets home. Okay, so much better than him making the list and saying it on the counter. I do that with groceries. Have you ever noticed you make a grocery list, you write the thing out in detail, what you're aiming for, and no sooner do you do that than you put it at home, and then you put it aside and leave it at home. It's a good thing I end up remote viewing periodically. But the link between the conscious and the subconscious is imperative. This is how we gain access to what I came to understand as a neural net. With that attachment and with that connection, you are so much more readily available to get to the contact. To get things accomplished. Now, I turned around yesterday. I was writing a bunch, and I ended up taking I added 2,000 words to book 9. Now, understand, book 9 will be the last one. So, assuming I get one book out a year, one novel out a year, assuming that, I'm looking at a decade down the road that I'm writing for. Now, the one thing I don't desire to have happen is to die before I actually get these done, which is part of the self-limiting and part of the goal that I've got in mind. Let us see, because I think I may have just received, where are we? I'm just looking to see if anything came in that I actually had to have. At this point, the answer is no. What do we got there? Okay, those will all get dealt with this afternoon. Let's go back to that. Now, when we take a look at your conscious mind, hopefully you guys have a goal that you're absolutely set to make happen. Whatever it is, take that goal. And wouldn't you know it, I put it aside. You take that goal and give it physical form. Simply put, whatever the goal is, state it in already completed process. In other words, okay, in other words, I've got this one up and running. Obviously, this book is built, okay, but I'm already of the mindset that the rest of the saga is complete, okay, and I simply write down, where did I put it? I didn't. Wouldn't you know it? So I go over here and grab this little neat thing. Those have to be put back afterwards. Okay, now, this would be the obvious one. I don't actually have to run in. Hey, Shadow, how you doing? Glad you could join us. And where, pray tell, is that little file that I have here? Not that one, this one. And Shadow, this is, of course, Shadow's YouTube channel. Absolutely drop by him. Absolutely drop by his channel if you like what he's got to say. You know, give him a thumbs up and do him a favor. Again, do hit subscribe on his channel if you haven't already. This here is the link to his channel. Okay, now where are we here? Let's minimize that to get it out of the way. You know, and by the way, Shadow, this one, you know, this is just the newest edition that I'm working on. I've had the figure for a while, but my son actually decided that his character needed a pack mule, so he had stuff he could pack his stuff and pack his collections around with. So he came to the idea, got all the information. I'm just in the middle of putting it together. You know, but again, this is a conscious choice. Okay, whatever you desire to accomplish to make you feel more successful, that's where we start. You know, I appreciate that there, Shadow. You know, the neat part about it, I actually, and I wish I had a picture I could show you. The dragon staff, unfortunately, that I was trying to get built, did not get completed. But I should do that, though. Matter of fact, I think I will. This is the difference. This is where, give me half a second. Hopefully I don't drop it. I'll be right back, guys. Now, this, unfortunately, what happened, oops, that didn't work well. Can't leave that door open. Okay. Oh, I did close it. Oh, I'm behind myself. Okay. Now, the staff that Jeremiah in the Birth of the Wolf Pack carries, actually, he doesn't carry it until the Return to Paradise. But this is the back end of it. Now, this was supposed to be turned into a complete staff. Unfortunately, the guy that was building it, he ran into problems, and this will not end up completed. Matter of fact, I got to talk to him about just tapping those in so that they don't come out. Because one of those claws are actually removable. But this is the difference between, and this is what a conscious decision can turn out. So I've got that. I've got to get it solidified, quite frankly. But let's put that way up there out of the way so it doesn't get bumped. Because I'm just going to put it up here out of the way. Ah, heck, let's put it here just so you can see it. Don't think that's necessarily safe, so let's not do that. Can it be? It can be seen there, sort of. What we got here? That side. I'm just trying to get things turned around in my own head. I push that over there. Then I can set this thing here. Push it right back so it doesn't fall over. Because the last thing I can afford for that to do is fall over. But that little crystal is that little dragon claw is actually when you read the Birth of the Wolf Pack and you get into Casey's, that is the handle, that is the tip of it, of the actual staff. Now I know some of you will find this odd because we're gonna go a little sidetrack here. Okay, gamers are a different crew, and you gotta people just come to realize that. Okay. That would be nice. And then I found this one day. No, this is not real. This is a actual plastic mock-up. It used to have a working mandible. But again, I decided I wanted it for representation purposes. Don't ask me what got me into getting that. I don't have a complete skeleton. Sorry, guys. Only the skull. But when we're looking at the conscious mind does some really weird things. People get an idea, oh, I really wish I could do this. Now, Shadow and Sun are perfect examples. They go, we're going to create this little piece of art. Okay, or a painter will do that, or a sculptor, or somebody building a business. You come up with this idea. What do I desire to mark? What is it I desire to actually co-create? And when your conscious mind does that, you got to remember, the subconscious is what keeps you driving and keeps driving you. And the subconscious is also quite often what ends up relaying the dreams that you have. I mean the positive and the negative ones. Okay, but it's when you put both of those together that it becomes a really viable tool. Now, I've talked to you guys before about something called 0-point energy. Well, that is accomplished by taking your conscious mind and tapping into the power of the subconscious. Okay, that is where the real link comes in. Now, people will tell you you can't control the subconscious. I'm telling you you can. Of course, I refuse to accept a lot of things people tell me I can't do. Now, am I still looking into things? You bet. Okay. And let me ask you this. Because again, it boils down to what I find with this particular room. You guys are brilliant where it comes to talking to each other and helping each other find your way around things. Okay. To make things happen so you can actually get ahead. Okay. Or so they can. I've been in other chat rooms where what you'll see is people arguing or people fighting with each other. And I wish that I had the capacity to carve like the gentleman that carved that dragon's claw for me. Okay. Would have been nice if I'd managed to get it completed, but I've got all the parts for it. But unfortunately, the odds of my getting it completed are going to be just about non-existent unless I can really luck out and find somebody. But you take a thought that you've got. Okay. Now, many of the characters I'm starting to work on and the little bits and pieces I'm collecting, like this. Okay. because of the fact that I really do not have the technical capacity or the artistic capacity. Okay, this neat little thing here has been tested. This is what when I'm writing and Jeremiah pulls out his bowl. This is literally what he is using. And yes, this is perfectly safe. It's already been tested. As a matter of fact, the first time it got tested, and you'll love this. First time it got tested was actually with a drink of rye neat. Not that much. But what I'm doing is I'm taking that image that I built with the Yldrbac Chronicles and I'm turning it into a physical world. Okay. Now the conscious is what you do to say, I'm not content with my world the way it is. So what am I going to do to modify it? Okay, how am I going to change the energy flow to make the things happen that I'm content with? Okay, for me, it boils down to taking all the clutter that I've got and getting rid of it. Okay, but in case you haven't noticed, I have a tendency of pulling a lot of things out, and there is an old saying that literally goes, it always looks worse before it looks better. Okay, now you can look at it that way. I take a look at it and go, okay, I saw this eventually with your guys' push, with your guys' encouragement. I really came to believe that pulling 1,000 subscribers was a possibility. Right now, I'm sitting at, well, like I said, we're sitting at 480. Okay. Now I set the 1,000 up for the end of this year, for the end of 2023. Now I've still got a lot of work to do. I've started posting the Yldrbac Chronicles now on different websites for people to actually buy. Okay. But take a look at your subconscious when you feel it here. If you've got a dream that you keep having about attaining something, about creating an artifact, about creating a work of art, or just about ending a conflict with a friend of yours. Okay, that all starts in the subconscious, in this feeling, before it ever gets to your mind. It starts in the subconscious. Okay, and away you go with it. As soon as you get that feeling here, and most people are like this. You get this feeling in your heart and you start pushing, you get this drive that I've got to get this thing done. Ever feel like you spend a day going around in circles and get nothing accomplished? This is a negative derivative of the subconscious, where the mind turns around and says, I should have got so much more accomplished, but I just kept putting it aside, and now here I am. Okay, now I'm sitting in this state. Well, for me, it boils down to this. I see this world a lot better off than what we have it. I can honestly see this world, the peoples of this world actually working together in spite of all the garbage you see printed out there. Okay, and again, if you are one of these people to post something negative or to repost something, oh, look at how embarrassing this is for somebody. Please keep in mind that if you're doing that to other people, you're asking somebody else on the subconscious level, you're actually asking somebody else to do the same thing with pictures of you. Okay, or with miscalculations you've made. But that said, that's your choice. That said, I do implore you, if you're posting something negative, something embarrassing, something that is of a, shall we say, a not pleasant nature, do us all a favor and post 2 other things of a positive site. Okay, you would have loved I was looking at a video the other day that somebody posted, and it showed this little pup. He's just standing in the room. All of a sudden, he gets up and runs out of the room, comes back with a bag of wipes, and then puts his butt up in the air. Okay, for the owner to clean him up. Okay, so it was really one of these things. It was just, okay, well, this is cute. Once he was done, he ran off, came back, closed the door. It's sort of like, okay, he knew what he desired. He knew what he had to, what his subconscious was telling him. This is what I have to do. Eric, how you doing? Glad you could join us. Now, I have to do something, and this will save me a whole lot of hassles. We go there, and we go. There we go. Now, Eric, if you would be kind enough to turn around and to... Now, why did that not show up? I am curious why that didn't show up. Of course, it might have. I know what we can do. We refresh that and see what happens. I am glad you made it there, Eric. Now, if you would be kind enough to put I believe you can do it at this point, to put your channel in so that we can get people to come and sit in with it. I thought those showed up, but apparently not. Nope. He should be, but I get a kick out of this. The color isn't working, but that's okay. But no, to say the least, it's been a bit of a hectic day today. Ended up getting, I got 2,000 words written in the Yldrbac Chronicles because I have this thing. I've got to get this done. Now, I'm not dying anytime soon. There was a little bit of wonderful consideration that I could be dealing with a blood clot, but as it turns out, we have absolute... Oh, that is not a problem there, Eric. I didn't have it. If we have to postpone, we just bang. All I have to do, not a problem. All we have to do is pick a day that is not a Thursday and not the first Friday of the month. Other than that, I'm pretty much open. Unless, of course, I get caught up in something else. But we will get that to happen as soon as we can. Technology seems to be one of these things that is just annoying for a lot of people. There we go. Took long enough, but it finally got around to it. But with that in mind, Eric, we will carry on and just do as we always have done, one step at a time. But I will tell you, the next time I end up on the horn with you, I'm thinking 5 hours may have been a little much. We didn't get a lot accomplished. I had a great time. Mr. L, how you doing? Glad you could join us. And that came out really, really badly. I absolutely agree. Although, there was a video a while ago, a guy, his teenage daughter was being absolutely problematic. So he filmed himself dealing with it. He solved the problem with troubleshooting a laptop. He pulled out a 12 gauge side-by-side slug thrower and opened into it and opened fire. Well, for some reason, the hard drive didn't survive. Nor did the rest of the computer. But this was something he did of his own accord, and he had bought the computer anyway. But, when we're troubleshooting Windows, when we're trying to troubleshoot technology, it is a royal pain a lot of the time. And I'm the last person you want to talk to. And, the sad part is, YJ, literally every time I've put Norton on my computer, it doesn't matter what computer, it has crashed and seized the computer where I had to get somebody else to come in and straighten it out. And I am glad it works for somebody. You're actually the first person I've ever heard of that actually got Norton to work. I am glad it did. I'm glad from your standpoint that it's done what it was supposed to. Now, obviously they keep installing it. It works somewhere, just not for me. I take it was 2009 when. But for me, again, when we're looking at the way things work, one person's method doesn't necessarily work for another. Okay, for me, it boils down to I get a feeling in my head and I go, I've got to get this done. Like the problem I was having with my leg. Couldn't figure it out, and I knew if I went to the doctors, they wouldn't have a clue what to do with it either. That's just the luck I've always had. So what ended up happening is it finally dawned on me what might be the problem. And of course, I go, there's the answer, and then I worry about how to prove it. So I took care of it in a way. And net result is all of a sudden the swelling started to go down, like literally within minutes, which I'm guessing solved the problem of, well, gee, do we have a blood clot? Is it going to kill us like the last time? Oh, and in all fairness, that's a little overstated. I haven't died by blood clot yet. Okay, I'm not planning on it anytime soon. But I look at the way things are going, and you take a look at what your heart is saying, this is what I'd like to accomplish. Now, some people have mentioned dreams they've had as far as goals that they would like to accomplish. Now, for me, it's pretty widespread. Okay, I've got 30. I think I've actually got 36 books I'm trying to work out. But I really start. You're on your way. Okay, you have a good one there, Shadow. Oh, yeah. Well, definitely game time. This is why I don't come on. I'm glad you drop in, though. This is why I don't actually come on Thursday. It's because that's my game time. Sundays gets a little pressured because I've got Sunday the game, and then I've got Sunday for the game. Then I come in and do the open field, and then I've got the live reading. I'll tell you, I could have been a little less happy. I went back and listened to my own broadcast from Sundays, my own live reading. Boy, do I ever have a dead voice, in my opinion. Okay, I hope it works for some people. My writing I don't have a problem with. Speaking, that seems to be a bit of an issue. I've never even heard of Brave, to be honest with you. But I find if a program is working for me, that this works out well enough. Because I figure the less I change things, the better off I am. The reason I don't use my phone for working around, like for surfing the net, is because if you've seen the keyboards on these things, my hand just will not handle them at all. Okay. Right now I'm personally, I look at it this way. Once you get an idea in your heart, okay, and you get that drive to make things happen, that's when you can make things really turn around. Lazarus, how are you? Glad you could join us. The fact of the matter is that it's that heart drive that's got to be there, because no matter how much your mind says, I really desire to do this, or I know I should do this, it doesn't seem to help until that heart drive comes in and you go, I've got to get this imperative thing out of the way. Okay, now, question for you, and this is literally to everybody in the room. Okay, do any of you have a goal that you're working on that you haven't brought to a peak that you're willing to share with us? Things are healing on this end. From my end, it boils down to this. All the time there, football. It's funny. I have them, mind you, that's my own fault. I keep running into the things and I seem to be a little lost. And it's like, look, until we can make time to get you home, come and hang out. But leave my stuff alone, would you please? I got one friend, he's been dead now for 400 years. Okay. And he comes in, he keeps moving my stuff, and he puts it in really, really stupid places. Okay. And his name, and in all fairness, like I said, I first met him back in about 1300 AD. Okay, during the Black Plague. And then we caught up again about somewhere in the mid 1700s. We caught up again. Now, that's an excellent goal there, Lazarus. Because the spiritual and the physical bodies are absolutely linked. Okay. What do we got here? Adam's just going, I had an idea about my goal. My thought is to buy my truck from the fleet down the line. That way I'm getting that. Whoa. That way I know what I'm getting and I know what has to be and what's been done to it. Absolutely brilliant idea. I had another client back east who did the same thing. And he was so much happier once he owned his own rig. We are talking about sinking money into your livelihood. This is the same thing that I'm doing here. The money that I spend on all of my writing, and quite frankly, on the publishing company that I'm pushing to make happen now. Okay. All of that energy is because this is what I desire to turn my career into. Okay. And, it was, like I said, we are told as we're growing up, at least most people are, what I found most people are told is you've got to have your life in order. You've got to have a plan by the time you're 20 in order to be successful. And the moment I hear somebody telling me that, I take a look at, oh, that's a joyful thing. This doesn't make sense there, YJ. NBC, the federal government, is looking into making the only trucks legal for transport of goods to be no more than 10 years old. That is an absolute, that's an absolute suicide run in my eyes, at least as far as the industry goes. Because if you've got the trucks, number one, as near as I've ever seen, barely get broken in that time. But much more importantly, if you cripple the industry by making that a law, you're already in trouble. I take it out, and that means that's what they've already done in California. Talk about short-sighted. I can understand having safety tests for the vehicles and for the drivers for that matter. Okay. But saying 10 years old only, I'll tell you that's a disaster waiting for happen, but then you don't need me to tell you that. Gee, I cannot imagine why they aren't happy about it. Yeah. And that's understandable. Because if you've got to have a vehicle that's that old, it's like telling if the government were to come out and say everybody's got to have a state-of-the-art computer, the internet would collapse. Just right off the bat. Oh, you should try the one. Yeah, you noticed that too, YJ. Way back when I was a kid, we were having troubles with the F-101s. Matter of fact, they blew 3 up over my house. I should say my dad's house. I live there, but that's beside the point. And this is where all of us, if you ever get the opportunity to try this, to experience it is more to the point. Hey Chad, how you doing? Glad you could join us. We should get back to this. Where is what I'm looking? There we are. And Chad is in the room. Let's give a thumbs up here. And this is Chad's YouTube channel. So drop by, give him a look, give him a listen. If you like what he's got to say, absolutely drop in and let him know. Give him a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. What have we got here? Yeah, you notice that too, Henry? See, that whole idea of it being, they're overloaded with computers and difficult to fix brings back this neat little idea that came up in the Star Wars and during the Star Wars, not Star Wars, but the Star Trek series, where Scotty turns around and pulls a machine apart. And I think that was the journey home. Okay. Or no, that wasn't the journey home. That was in Final Frontier. And Scotty comes out with bits and pieces when the engine died. He goes, the more advanced these get, the more advanced the engines get, the easier they are to screw up. In Kelowna here, we used to have a power company, a small power company. It got bought out. But it used to post across its back wall, to err is human. To really screw things up requires a computer. My son just told me he came across a post. Apparently, Ford is now patenting a computer program that will not only enable them to lock your car from the factory, but it'll be able to bar you access. They'll be able to shut the car down and bar access. Now, that's great on the one hand, okay, because it does mean that if somebody's not paying a bill, they can stop it from being used any further. But the danger of it is absolutely is absolutely phenomenal. I'm just looking at this. YJ. Yeah, that would be normal. No, when they blew the F-101s that blew up in my place. Oh, thank you very much, Eric. I appreciate that. See, this is why I say my memory does not work great. Okay. But I do appreciate that there, Eric. Yeah, when they blew the F-101s up over my house, they lit, and I'll tell you, there is nothing more disturbing that I know of from a first-hand standpoint than that kind of setup. What do we got here? Adam's just going, day and a half in Kamloops because the emissions control system. Yeah, no doubt. See, now, if I could remember what I had for breakfast this morning, I'd be doing good. But when we start looking at the conscious mind and the subconscious mind, that subconscious, that drive in your heart, that is what makes people get up and get going in the day. This is why people wake up at really silly times, myself included. I thought I was oversleeping the other day. Turns out I wasn't. It was just really poorly timed, if you will. So now what I'm looking at, it's sad with the number of barriers I've run into. That can go back where it belongs. Now, you take a cup like this, and I'll tell you, you can get pretty bent out of shape. If I recall correctly, that's on because of the size of it. This is only if I remember correctly, it's only a two cup holder. But That's plenty if you're trying to get bombed right out of your tree. And put that back up where it belongs. But yeah, that one was custom made out of a burl. And again, it was simply an issue of I saw something, I got this image in my head, and because of the fact I knew what I was looking for, it became something that I absolutely had to get finished. Now, one of the big things you have to look at here, okay, because a lot of people, you're working on your physical health. Most of what you are looking for, your body will actually correct it. Okay, if your body can contract an illness, it can also evict it. Now, this is something I found out you could call it the hard way, because I actually did it by trial and error when I was a kid. Okay. Yeah. YJ goes, I bought a brand new car once, and it lasted 6 months. Now I drive a 36-year-old Jeep that doesn't have even one computer chip, and it's reliable. And therein says the whole 9 yards. Okay. Those of us that come from a world that is based more in the get off your tail feathers and do it. You take a look at the TVs today. I know that, I remember when I was a kid, I had one of my brothers tripped and he hit the front of the TV. And in case you don't recall the old TVs, he hit it full force, split his head open on it. We just washed the screen off and we took care of him and then washed the screen off. Can you picture what would happen to your TV if somebody fell against it in today's world? But we've got the capacity to look back in time to take a look at what people have done. Yeah, the neat part, and we'll start with this because this is literally the conscious and subconscious working together. I've shown you guys, some of you guys, this before, but take your hands, palms towards each other, and you put them together, keep them separated by about a quarter of an inch, maybe a half an inch. Okay. If you do that, okay, you'll feel a little bit of energy running between your hands. Now, that is based on your subconscious's ability to generate a biomagnetic field. But consciously, you concentrate on that and you can work it out so you can still feel that pressure and separate your hands further and further. Go as far as you can. Now, it started out with me only at about a quarter inch. At this point, I can take my hand. I'm only going this far simply because I run out of screen. Okay. But I put my hands towards each other and I can feel the energy. Some of you may be able to see it because I know computers will relay it. But you'll notice I'm not pointing my hands at the computer. Reason for that is I've been known to blow these poor things up. Okay. What do we got here? Oh, there we go. Lazarus is just saying my subconscious has been doing the exact opposite, like stopping me from my current life and pushing me in another direction, almost entirely. That's just it. That is because you got to remember, your body is your vehicle, your soul is your subconscious, and your soul came here to learn a number of things. Okay. Yeah, and I've got one. Where did I put mine? I'd have to go and look for it. I actually have a wand that I picked up that I do work with. But this thing here, that was sort of the rough draft of the fire gems in the Yldrbac Chronicles. And again, yeah, old TV. And you remember football with the old TVs? If you really want better reception, you just wrap them in a tinfoil hat. Does not work to stop aliens, by the way, but it did work to bring in better reception. And before anybody asks, no, I'm not about to start juggling this. The reality of it is, I tried doing that and I just got to go pick it up. Like, I got really good at playing 52 pickup. But when you've got an idea in your head, now, this idea of running the energy between your hands, utilizing the logical brain to activate the conscious brain, to activate the subconscious one, that is how things get moved around. That doesn't surprise me there, Lazarus. When you think about it, the more in tune with you get, the healthier you get. Okay. And this is something that the doctors don't necessarily want you to know, because I will tell you this. Healthy people do not make good patients. Okay. And the ones that don't believe the doctor's diagnosis are just a pain in the neck. I know this for an absolute fact. They were not happy when they told me I was dead. Well, actually, they told my parents. I didn't agree, so I left the morgue. But even when I had my stroke, when I had my stroke, they told me I would be, I'd be there for 6-8 weeks minimum before I could even get out of bed. I was out of bed in 2 days. Yeah, I remember one day, YJ, I went to a hotel, and I should say, I went to it, but I left. I went into this hotel, and because I was traveling down to the coast on a regular basis, because I used to run with the live psychic fairs. But this was somebody taking, and this told you it was a bad neighborhood. I get to this motel, right, and down the outside of the motel was hijacked cable lines. Okay, like this is back when you had to hardwire cables in. But when the owner came out, okay, when the owner came out, he's going like this, and as he's coming out of the office, I'm thinking, I think I'll just leave, what do we got here? The neat part about it, something for all of you to give the shot at. If you've got a group of friends around, okay, this is something you can do totally harmless, totally innocent, but it may drive your energy levels right through the roof and open doors that you're not necessarily expecting. But when you sit in a circle, okay, I recommend a circle, or you're not going to be able to complete a ring. Okay, but you sit down and you hold hands and you literally concentrate, just visualize the energy running around that circle, leaving one hand, entering with one hand, leaving with the other. Get all of you concentrating on that same pattern. You'll find your temperature goes up, your energy levels go up, and you come about a brand new level of awareness. Okay, I strongly recommend you give it a shot if you got anybody you like enough to hold the hand with. Now, this can be done with 2 people. Technically, it can be done with yourself. Okay, and that is literally you hold your hands and concentrate on just getting that energy running. Now, I've done that before. I do it periodically, quite frankly. I'll lock my hands together. Okay, and all I do is concentrate on the energy going through the one hand, doesn't matter which way. Okay, out through the shoulders and down through the other hand. So that when I'm locking them together, I've got a complete circuit. Now, you can do this with as many people as you desire. But the more people you do it with, the stronger that energy flow is going to get. Because you get all these little extra boosters. Okay, this is just one of those ways of enhancing your energy flow, of enhancing your ability to affect the spiritual world. Okay, and again, this is just an exercise in taking your conscious mind to direct what your subconscious already is drawing. Okay, is already producing. it can be a little disconcerting, especially if you're expecting to be able to fly right off the bat. I wouldn't hold my breath on that. The neat thing about it, I take a look at what people are going through. I go, okay, like when I developed the problem with my leg, I was sitting there. Can I go to the doctor and get them to figure it out? Probably, but they're going to tell me, number one, even in today's world, I am firmly convinced if I go to the doctor, the first thing they're going to tell me is I've got COVID. Okay. Then they're going to start prescribing pills because this may help. I swear, a lot. But where it comes to the medical world, I can do guesswork all on my own. And yeah, it may end up killing me one day, but I mean, their methods didn't quite work to take. The thing is, you get something set in your own mind that you desire to acquire and to attain, to create. How you doing, Raven? Glad you could join us. The figures that you're seeing up in the back here, okay, these guys are up here, are all dragons that I am actually working with. I'm actually in the process of writing a section whereby I can actually get the names all sorted around, which I now just have to put into place. Because all people, all races do not call things the same thing. Okay. So what I figured, humans understand dragon. Okay, they understand the term dragon, and it paints a real simple picture. Okay, where did my little critter go? And yes, this actually will be in the second volume. Where is it? Now, this particular little critter, their actual race is the Ararahar. Okay, but I'm pretty certain you guys recognize that as a dragon. So I figured out how to transfer that over. Okay, figured out how to transfer that over in the writings. What do we got here? That's just, that's the thing, YJ. When you take a look at the cost of making the medication, and then you look at what they're charging people for it, it's absolutely insane. You want more energy? There's no real problem to it. It's not a big secret unless you talk to the medical world. Perfect. I can actually do that. Okay, that's no problem there. Where are we? Raven, it has absolutely arrived. Okay, now I will have to take what have we got? Gotta come back here. Okay. I just got a hold of it. And I will absolutely answer the email as once I'm off the air tonight. Okay. Because the fact of the matter is, I don't want to take the time to go through an email while I'm sitting here. And Eric, if you're still in the room, I did get your message. I haven't gone through it, but there's no problem. We'll work something out on that end. Oh, nice. I do that a lot. I'll get something half written. That was the whole catch with yesterday, I think it was. I had a section of the book written, but I knew it wasn't complete. It took me almost all day to get the thing finished because I kept getting sidetracked. Carl, how you doing? Glad you could join us. Well, that's just it, Lazarus. One of the things you have to remember where it comes to meditation. The more in tune with you become, the better your energy levels will run. The more energy you'll have, the happier you're going to be. These are just side effects. When you use your conscious mind to focus on what the subconscious can do or is doing, you'll find your health improves, energy levels climb, your mental acuity climbs right through the roof. I still haven't found it did a lot of good for my personal memory of names, but I'm working on it. But the moment you realize that the ability of your mind to tap into what the subconscious already has, one day, and I'm literally working on this on the side. Okay. I'm working on this as a side study to actually get my own ability to affect the material world, as in what you call telekinesis. I refer to as much more directly psychokinesis, mind over matter. Okay, when we're looking at healing the body, the actual term would be, at least that I learned, would be psychocellular kinesis, the ability to accelerate your own healing factor. And it's that sort of thing that we can all learn to implement. I was talking to a young lass today that asked me if I could actually teach her how to hone in on it a little better and how to put it to more use. Yeah, that's the thing, Lazarus. Once you start tapping into it, you get a better understanding. Like, this is why I refer to things in a lot of cases. Okay, this is why I refer to things as the subquantum, because it's below. It is a smaller function than what most people have ready access to. Did I not see you come in, Nightmare? If not, my apologies, but welcome aboard. Actually, I think I'm seeing things. Nope, I did not. Nathan, how you doing? Glad you could join us. We were just actually getting into the whole idea of the whole quantum realm here. Just kind of touching on it because it literally boils down to, it literally boils down to going to that realm and using your conscious mind to amplify what's already there. Whoop, don't want to do that, just want to minimize that. Where are we here? How about if we refresh that, just because I'm curious what's going on. Now again, guys, if you haven't already, if you do like the stream and you haven't already done so, would you be kind enough to hit the thumbs up and subscribe to the channel? Okay, and again, these guys that I keep putting the websites up for, the YouTube channels up for, great bunch of people. Okay, speaking of which, Eric, when you're ready to get things moving, absolutely, this is just carte blanche. Feel free to pop your YouTube channel in there when you're to a point where you're ready to do so. Well, at least in this case, you named somebody I actually recognize. Which is a rarity in my world. But everything I've seen about him, he's got some interesting ideas. I haven't actually looked into a lot of what he does, but my understanding is he's got some pretty solid ideas of what's going on. You're more than welcome there, Eric. One day I'll get around to actually taking the time to research some of these people. But, it boils down to this. Everybody will have their take on it. I look at things and ask, did the person actually think that through before they put it? The one thing that concerns me is the number of so-called professionals that are telling me, like I remember one in particular, just set me right off. Actually ended up getting me cut and pushed off a radio show, off a station one day. Because I literally told him responding to something they said on a YouTube channel. Okay. And the comment that they made was unequivocally, they said, there is absolutely no doubt every single hybrid knows they're a hybrid. Right. And I'm sitting there going, you're a professional and you're loading this out? Right. So net result, and no, I'm not going to tell you who it was. If you know who it was, that's fine. But the net result was I looked at and went, hybrids don't necessarily know they're hybrids any more than somebody that's adopted knows they're adopted. It's just not one of these things that is commonplace. See, the neat thing, now I'm not entirely certain what his entire take on it is. I will tell you this. About 25 years ago, don't know how they did it. Well, that's always handy. You do know what an expert is, eh, Lazarus? My older brother actually told me one day. He goes, if anybody calls themselves an expert, what they're telling you is they are an unknown drip under pressure. An unknown spurt. Drip under pressure. But, when you look back at it, and you take a look, about 20, 25 years ago, somebody figured out that when somebody passes away, when you take into consideration gas and fluid discharge, when somebody passes away, and you take all that into consideration, there is still a 2-ounce discrepancy between the weight and the starting weight and the end weight. Now, the basic suspicion there, the basic suspicion is that 2 ounces is the weight of the soul. And the soul continues traveling on forever and a day anyway. The soul doesn't actually die of old age, it just simply evolves. Yeah, I understand that. To be honest, Lazarus, if you hadn't said, I'm totally joking, of course, I probably would have missed the joke or the sarcasm, take your pick. I find I'm barely functional being me. The only thing I know for certain is that when I say something, I'm being honest, because the reality is, if I were to sit here and lie to people, well, number one, I have no way of proving it, and I've got no way of remembering it myself or recalling it myself. Yeah, Nathan goes, nerd joke. I'm an expert and not an expert at the same time. You won't know which until you observe. Yeah, that is terrible. That's as bad as the which one is it? Schrodinger's cat. He's there, not there at the same time. I swear, on the other hand, when we start looking at the intellect of people, that a lot of them are not brain dead and extremely intelligent both at the same time. Kind of goes the other way. My other half actually just earlier today, she goes, you're phenomenal at being sarcastic, but you don't spot it worth a darn. Half the time I end up taking what somebody says way too directly. And, it causes problems. But when you can get your mind to wrap around what your actual intent is, and you can tap in to the subconscious drive, that's when you will make the most headway. Eric's just reported here, Dr. Duncan McDougall did experiments that led him to believe the human body lost 21 grams after death. Yeah, 21 grams, for those of you who don't know the translation, 28 grams is an ounce. Roughly speaking. I'd lay odds or decimals in there somewhere. But, you know, now exactly how they came to the weight, I don't know. I do know that when the physical body dies, the soul does move on, and a soul can inhabit another body, and quite frankly, more often than not, does. Oh, okay. I thought it was just recently. Mind you, I thought it was just recently. Like this Christmas, I was looking at it. And pardon me for going sideways on this. I don't usually look at Christmas. Not during the year. But, the thing is, back in 1907 is when people thought things through. But, when you hear the song Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, okay, everybody sings it, virtually everybody sings it, Donner and Blitzen. I always remembered it, even from childhood, as Donder, with a D in place of the second N. Well, as it turns out, the original song, like 400 years ago original, was Donder, and then somewhere along the way they changed it. About 300 years ago, I guess, they shifted it. Thanks, Eric. I appreciate that. When the thing I look at there, Lazarus, and I realize you're asking Eric, from my end, the scientists from back in the late 1800s, early 1900s, were much more interested, it seemed to be much more interested in the truth than they were in making people happy. Nowadays, it seems to be a whole different ballgame. But that's just my personal outlook on the thing. Now, if you've got, the thing is, we can take our body, okay, and we can get it to heal in spite of all the garbage going on. The funny part about it is when I take a look at it, I looked at the way my leg was reacting. Now I could have gone to the doctor, okay, and got them to do tests and see if I had a blood clot. But I was thinking, I wasn't having pain, I wasn't having mobility problems, and I wasn't having the time and wasn't having the inclination to go and listen to a bunch of people go, I don't know what it is, so let's try this pill. I'm not sure, but just taking pills because it might work, not necessarily a good idea in my eyes. Yeah, isn't it? This is why I'll take a look at it. I got a kick out of it, Eric. We got into this discussion the other day. Somebody else did with me. When you take a look at it, it's being debunked. You take the D off it, and when a number of years ago, if you didn't like something, you called it bunk. Okay, back in the early 1900s, they used to call it bunk, as in BS. So, with that in mind, it stands to reason that when you debunk something, you prove it is not BS. Would be the way it translates out of that. I get a kick out of a number of people. They take somebody that's been successful and they start going, well, here's all the holes. And this is why I say, if people want to go that route with me, I like that idea. I have a tendency, in case you hadn't noticed, I have a tendency in dealing with some of the older terms anyway. But then I think that's because I'm a bit of a dinosaur. See, when I get the coffee cups done that I'm planning on getting done, you can bet they're going to have a coffee handle that size. Because in case you haven't noticed, it doesn't work well for me to try and grab that way. And that's just lopsided. So when I grab a cup, okay, it's funny, up until the stroke, this hand never separated. It still does them well. But that's why my hands sit that way a lot of the time. No, I'm not quite that old, actually. I'm a whole lot. If we take a look at my soul, I'm a whole lot older. But, the reality of it is, I look at some of these scientists, some of the writers from back in the late 1800s, early 1900s. They took the standard rule of thumb and said, I'm not following this. I'm going my own road. People that buy into the idea. Okay, yeah, my hands are short. I am, quite frankly, almost purely carnivore if I can get away with it. But you take a look at some of these older musicians, the older scientists, from back in the early 1900s, late 1800s. They were people that went, this is the belief that they have. Now let's find out. Let's prove the reality. The ones nowadays seem to go, this is the common conception. So let's just try and bolster that to make it fit. Yeah, that's because they kept putting a pillow over your head. Couldn't speak that well at that point. My older brother, the first 2 weeks of his life, he never said a word, never made a noise. After that, he hasn't been quiet. For me, I just look at the way the world is, and I'm going, there's got to be something on here. Hey, who do we got? Shelly, how you doing? Glad you could join us. Yeah, what Shelly has just said is for Rachel. No, that keeps moving on me. It's great. It does, however, have a problem. And she says Rachel Lewis from Head to Feet. What does it say here? Restore new organs, body, bones, strong eyes, heal hair, toenails, heal all the illness and disease tumors. And you do it all back to the way you were as a baby. Absolutely works like an excellent charm, like an absolute charm. You too, Lazarus? I remember waking up one day when I was still married, and my wife, she took a look at me. I had a gash that ran from here to here, one from here all the way to here, and one from here all the way across. And they were all absolutely parallel. And my wife looks at me and she goes, I don't even want to know what you were fighting last night. But the human body is a phenomenally regenerative capacity when you believe in it and tap into it. Okay. That's just these guys were all, and that's the thing, you don't see many scientists push, at least you don't hear about many pushing the limits too terribly far now. There is that I know of, and I don't know who built it. Somebody took it upon themselves to build an engine that would not wear down, period, and ran on tap water. Now, that is already in existence, and it was buried by people that were looking to make money. I know of another process that was built where you take a cup of oil sand out of the Athabascan tar sands. You run it through this process. You get about 3/4 of a cup of sandbox fresh sand, like what you can get your kids to play in. About a 1/4 cup of oil, a little less than a 1/4 cup of crude oil, and the only runoff is potable water. Now, my question to people, and I mean realistically to the people in charge of this, is why are they mucking around with stuff that is costing so many problems and not producing the results, unless they are trying to keep it working in the dark ages, as it were. Yeah, there it goes. You would never get the Stockholm interpretation in the current scientific climate. No, absolutely not. Now, in all fairness, I don't know what the Stockholm interpretation was, but I do know that the modern scientific world, the modern education world, has been crippled beyond belief. And all because somebody didn't like what was being said. I mean, if we take a look back on it, the witches back during the witch hunts. I heard somebody the other day say, "Oh, they can't hitch hunt and they hate witch hunts didn't happen." I'm like, "You're kidding me, right?" Well, yeah, and that's the funny thing there. You know, Eric's just going. They fear hydrogen tech because we can make our own fuel with solar panels and electrodes, which we absolutely could if you had any idea how to do it. Oh, YJ, I can't tell you where, or more to the point, I won't. But I can absolutely tell you that true science is taking place in backyard bunkers, in hidden enclaves. Okay, much as I can tell you that the off-worlders are bringing influence to our world. Okay, but they're going through back channels to do it. And again, it's because mainstream seems to be afraid of what is possible. I know the doctors don't like me going into the hospital because I don't like staying there. So I don't. That's just the way that goes. Yeah, I'll put it to you this way, Eric. I do agree with you, but my brother used to say the same thing to my mom regarding computers. They're easy, and all of that stuff is easy once you get your brain wrapped around it. Okay, I found it the hard way that getting electrocuted is child's play. Painful, but it's easy to do. Yeah, I don't have that, and I don't doubt that at all. I do know the guy that made the filter and the filtration system for oil. I know he lived into his late years. I suspect at this point that he is probably deceased, primarily because I knew him when I was only in my 40s, and and he was already in his 70s. Okay, and bearing in mind I'm 59 now, that will put him somewhere in his 90s. Nathan's just going, there's a method using sound that I need to look back up. Hydrolysis uses less pain. Yeah, hydrolysis is. That much I do know. I will tell you, when we look at sound, there are ways sound actually works very nicely. What do we got here? Yeah. See, some of the tools they used back in ancient Egypt, they had a really neat operating theater. Okay. And it went way beyond normal because what they did was using the Ankh, using that, and I don't know. Yeah, I can do it this way. Again, we are talking really, really bad artwork. Okay. But this was basically what they were looking at. The ancient Egyptians had a tool that looked like this. Okay, now the thing was, this circle created a field that they could operate inside the human body without breaking the skin. Okay, it was placed over, and yes, before I get into that any further, okay, it was placed over top of a pad. Okay, this is one of the tools I'm actually adding to the races of the worlds. Okay, This one, and I'll have to think back and remember the name of it, but I can tell you the race that dealt with it. And that's these people. Okay, these people here, the Ennead, they are the ones that the Egyptians saw as Egyptian gods. Okay, and much like the Nords, they turned around and went, "Okay, you want to call me a god and give me all sorts of stuff? I'm good with it." You know, it's like I've told people. You know, Adam, much as I agree with you, much as I agree with you, arguing with somebody about that is absolutely, is absolutely it, to me, it can be an exercise in futility. But, what do we got here? No, you're absolutely right, Adam. There is no way I already know for an absolute certainty they've got some of the technology. What do we got here? Yeah, and you're absolutely right there, YJ. It was the Ankh they were using. This extra pad I've drawn is what they put the person on before putting this in. And yes, I saw somebody mention it there, just having trouble finding it. But yes, this is linked. This is linked to the energy they use for Stargates and what have you. This is the same technology, just on shorter range. Because there's not much point in stepping through a Stargate to go a quarter of an inch. Oh, yeah, you bring up element 115, they're going to tell you that doesn't exist. But here's the neat kicker. Okay, that I'm aware of. I've seen it and no, I cannot reproduce it. My mind doesn't work that way. But I have seen a table of elements on one of the ships with 245 different elements. Okay, and they said that they were working on a few extras. They were trying to sort out others. Now, not all of them are available on Earth. Okay, the sad part about it is that we have built into our, when we're talking about clean energy here, you yourself, every single one of you, has the capacity to generate clean energy. You think about it, your body runs on clean energy. You don't make any money off it. Well, some of you are using your bodies to make money. Okay. And no offense there intended to anybody. The sad part is money doesn't have a world. How you doing? Glad you could join us. The fact of the matter is people are too caught up in the financial side of things to pay attention to what they're actually doing. And where is world here? There's world. And again, we have another person with a really neat channel. Okay, I've watched a couple of his shows. The documentation he's got are absolutely phenomenal. Oh, well, according to Venusians, it's very habitable. Lazarus was just saying, I've heard mixed things on Venus. Always wondered if it is inhabitable. And it absolutely is. The one thing with Venus is humans are not going to be able to breathe on it. Not with the atmosphere it's got. But that doesn't mean they can't survive on it. The problem is humans keep looking at alien races and going, this is an alien race, so it has to look human. Not really. Okay, some do, but not that many. Thank you so much for joining us, Raven. I will absolutely get to that email tonight and let you know what comes of it. YJ is just saying re-element 115. My hunch is that they don't possess much of it, and then what they have never, and what they do, and the why they recover craft is to get more of it, to power their fleet of TR-30 and 3Bs. Now, I don't know what the fleet of TR-3Bs are, but I can tell you this. Okay, when you're looking at now that may be what they need. I don't know what 115 is for. Of course, in all fairness, I don't know what element 78 is. Okay. So, I learned the first 20 elements and that was where it ended. They threw me out of camp. I'm just reading. Oh, okay. That's why. And yeah, if they're trying to run that, they're going to have some fun. Mind you, they're trying to get it to run on Terran technology. And it doesn't have to be Terran. But I will tell you, those things travel like an absolute bat. What have we got? Looking here. When we take it, like, these are all examples of people that have taken their mind and pushed it beyond the accepted norm. Oh, thank you very much there, YJ. Somewhere around here I've got a book that tells me. But I got into science in grade 8 and got promptly thrown out. Something to do with the fact that I didn't register things the way they did. The way the teachers did. But the neat part is when you can take your conscious mind and push it and tap into your subconscious, you can do incredible things. Okay, one of the things I'm starting to work around now, one of the things I'm starting to work on at this point is, and if I ever pull it off, or when I pull it off, I'll certainly let people know. Mind you, there is that neat little question. I've already done the lab rat thing with the MyLabs. Okay, not overly interested in it again, but there are things I remember doing, and I do intend on recreating them. But it boils down to taking your conscious mind and tapping in to the subconscious to generate a much higher field. Yeah, for me it was because of the fact that they found out during an experiment, they accidentally found out I breathed low-grade hydrochloric gas. And I think it was a question they threw me out because they didn't know what else I wasn't going to register. Yeah, Eric goes, there's 118 elements on our table of elements. We got cheated. Yeah, possibly. There's a lot more going on out there. And the funny thing is, when you limit yourself going, it has to fit into the human consciousness to actually fit. It threw me for a loop when a friend of mine, chap by the name of Gordon, started telling me he wanted coffee. Now, Gordon was not a human. Gordon was a plant. He was called a croton. Unfortunately, he died when I had my stroke. My boys were too worried about my stroke to really remember to deal with the plants. Uh-oh. I hate to tell you this, Lazarus, but that was not a wise move. I'm surprised I didn't get thrown out of chemistry class earlier because, unfortunately, somebody had turned on And I didn't think about it. Of course, that was my biggest flaw, is I didn't think about much. You know, I turned around. Somebody lit one of the gas valves. They turned it on and lit it. So we had a flame about this long. Okay, coming out of one of the gas valves. Well, I figured that was wrong. So I opened up the other one and lit it. Well, more to the point, I opened up the other one because it was set across a 3 foot gap in the tables. So I just turned on this one, and all of a sudden we had a long stream of gas running between them. Not one of my wisest moves, but I didn't get thrown out of chemistry for that one. Well, the problem is, if you're doing the thing with experiments, is you got to find a way to make them intriguing. And when I'm looking at what I work on here, okay, if even one of you can turn around and without getting yourself into trouble and trapped in the my labs again, if even one of you can build up enough energy, and this is a neat little trick which I can't exactly show you where to put it. Here's a test for you. Okay. You can do this. Okay, you can do this on your own time because, quite frankly, it's probably going to take a little while. But you take a toothpick, right? Now, I recommend the ones that are double terminated because they are equal weight on both ends. Set it floating. Obviously, I'm not going to do it. First of all, there's no water in here. But you set it floating in a clear glass. Okay. And you'll notice it's just, you'll notice that I think you can just about notice. Okay. You want just enough water so it doesn't actually hit the walls. Okay. Put that floating in a glass of water. Okay. Then you take your hands, build the energy up, and make sure the glass is sitting on something that won't get moved. Okay. Take your hands, put them about a 1/4 inch apart. Build the energy between them so you can feel that rolling bubble. Okay. Until you can separate your hands far enough to put them on either side of the table, on either side of the glass. Concentrate on keeping that energy running. Okay. With that sitting in the water. Now, I will caution you, when you go to put it in the water, if you're not careful, it will sink. Okay. But see if you can get it to move. And I would love to hear from some of you, even one of you, that you managed to accommodate it. Now, and that's just one of these things about taking your mind, your body creates that anyway, creates that energy. And if you were to take your hands right now and put them just a 1/4 inch apart, you'll notice I can still see through them. Okay. You can feel the energy in there. That is drawn by your subconscious. But tapping into the conscious, you can increase that energy flow. Okay. And by doing that, you can cause this thing to move. Now, you want to enhance your own abilities. This is one of the tools to do it. Okay, and we'll get into that. I think Friday I'm set up for that. I'm looking at this. Yeah. What are we doing here? Okay. Yeah, and that's the whole thing. I've questioned things most of my life there, Lazarus. Not the least of which is why I was put in the morgue. Mind you, I thought it was a barracks. YJ's just going, one of my favorite science projects was making a huge landscape on a sheet of plywood with different organic materials. Oh, see, we did the same sort of thing, YJ. We set up a landscape on a slope, right? And then because we were doing an experiment to see how fire how a fire would react. So we took actual trees, actual clippings of pine trees and what have you, set them up on a slope, and then lit a little fire at the bottom just to see what would happen. And I'll tell you, it's remarkable what you can learn just by watching. Kimberly, how you doing? Glad you could join us. Yeah, Friday. I think Friday's when I'm doing it. I just got to double check because I do like keeping people informed. Let's see. Today is Tuesday. Oh, okay. Yeah. Tomorrow we're going to look into how to develop your ability to remote view. Okay, which by the way translates also into clairvoyance and clairaudience. Yeah, on Friday we're going to be looking at creativity and take a look at some of the things we can work with. Many of them, to be frank, many of the ideas that come up, I'm fully intending on putting to use. Just because of the fact that I got to do something that's a little different, like I don't already or something. But yeah, what am I looking at here? The nice part about it, and by the way, guys, I've only got things planned thus far for, where are we here? Nope, don't need that. At this point, I've only got them planned until Sunday. Let me see. Yep. So if you guys have a topic that you would like to get looked at, we are now booking into Monday of next week. The nice part about it, from my standpoint, you guys seem to pick topics that are better than the ones I work with. Okay. But if you've got a topic you'd like to look into, absolutely let me know. Okay. What do we got? The reality of it is, I think one of the things I'm going to look at here, actually, I think that's a good idea. I might be wrong, but I don't have it over there. Of course not. So we go here, we pull out a pen. And I think what we're going to do is, because Sunday's already booked, so just marking in Monday. I just figured out what to do with it. On Monday. Okay, just to give you a heads up, we're going to be looking at some of the technology that I know, some of the alien technologies that I know of. Okay. Okay, I will answer that question for you right away, but I will do that on Tuesday anyway. Henry's just brought up, what is 0 point energy? Okay, 0 point energy is the energy, it is a normal, try English. 0 point energy is the energy that connects everything. Okay, that is what we tap into when we are modifying reality. Okay, and yes, humans, when they work together, have the capacity to alter the actual flow of reality. Problem is, humans have this thing that they're supposed to fight with each other, and they're supposed to make sure everybody else feels less. The trick to making 0 point energy run properly is to realize that all of us add something to that energy flow. But let us put that here. On Tuesday, we will deal with 0 point. And yes, I will be posting this. Because I figure if I can get things moving into a reasonably stable pattern, all I got to do is look at it and go, this is what I'm working on today. I'm looking at Lazarus just saying they did a game where you get one card on every desk until you get to the teacher, but if you get one, you sit down and it's the next student. Well, you are absolutely correct there, YJ. And this is something that we will take a look at. By the way, I will touch on it. There are two tools I do know of. I will touch on them, but we are not going to go into how to use them or how to build them. Okay. I will. There are two tools I know of. I know how to make one of them right off the top of my head. I also know how to use it, but I'm not about to open that can of worms. And those two tools would be, we will touch on what they are. Okay, i.e. the Ouija board. Now, the Ouija board is not, and these are not off-world tools. These are things that exist here. Okay, the Ouija board and the psychomantium. Okay, what do we got here? Just had to move my cursor out of the way. Henry's asking, do electronic devices affect zero-point energy? Only in as much as they provide another source that we can amplify. We can absolutely do that. Kimberly's just asking to talk about the elemental spirits. We can absolutely do that. See what happens? I get you guys thinking we end up booked a week and a half down the road. This is great. So we go and take a look at that. And we go at, where are we? Wednesday, the elementals. Yeah, we could end up with a lineup 8 miles long. But we have got the elementals set up to discuss the elementals and their wherewithal set up for next Wednesday. All in all, things are changing quite. This is what I like about this place. You guys are so supportive, and you've got some phenomenal ideas. So we will get to these things, and like I said, what I will do is I'll put a post together, and I'll probably do that tonight. Well, tomorrow is going to be. Yeah, Jeff got good memory. This is why I write things down, people. Okay, yeah. Tomorrow we are looking at. Yeah, tomorrow we're going to look at remote viewing and that side of it. Okay. And before somebody bothers to ask that, I'm going to just put a kibosh on it before we get into it. No, much as I do remote view, I'm not going to be doing it on the show tomorrow, or on the show tomorrow. Because of that's not tomorrow. I've got an incredible memory, but it is extremely short. Psychomantium. The funny thing is, Eric, where it came to the psychomantium, when it comes to the psychomantium, I had somebody that was trying to build, she was trying to build a relaxation room for her massage room and therapy room. And I asked her what she had in mind, so she laid it out. And like I said, Eric, and I'm sure you can understand this one, I'm not going to tell you what they designed, but she laid out this layout for the room. And I looked at her and I bust out laughing. I says, "You're kidding me, right?" She goes, "No, I think that would really help them relax." I says, "Yeah, it'll help them relax. for about 15 seconds until the gateway opens. I said, you accidentally have just laid out the pattern for building a psychomantium. And a psychomantium is not something anybody wants to play around with. What do we got here? Julie, how you doing? Glad you could join us. Yeah, they're a fantastic little tool, but I caution you, what's written about them, they don't tell you the half of the dangers. Okay, and yeah, some tools are great to use if you know what you're doing. The sad part about it is if you don't know what you're doing, they can be a whole lot worse than a Ouija board can be. Now, the tools I'm going to be looking at down the road here are things like, and I will find the name for it beforehand, but things like this little tool. Okay, I do have the tool that the Zeta Reticulans use for tagging their abductees. Oh no, they're easy to control, Eric. You just open them up and they run all by themselves. The trick isn't getting them to run, it's getting them to shut down. I've done the same. I've done something similar to that long time ago. I used to do that I used to do that in the bathtub. Turn all the lights off. Kind of worked like a sensory deprivation chamber. Hey, Greg, how you doing? And absolutely, if you'd be kind enough, say hi to Janine for us. That would be appreciated. Yeah, Lazarus, I would whoever actually decided to sell the Ouija board as a toy, I'm a firm believer should be beaten. Talk about opening a can of worms. It's kind of like taking nitroglycerin and selling it in a kid's store going, here, go have a blast. Yeah, there are a lot of things that are like, a lot of the things that we're told are fake, aren't. That would not surprise me. Kimberly's just saying, I saw someone who got possessed by a spirit being on one. Yeah, and I've seen that too. I was playing with the Ouija board one day, and the guy's name was Mark. And I told him, I'm sitting there looking at him, I'm going, why won't you guys give me an honest answer? You answer everybody else. And I kid you not, Mark, he sat there and he goes, permission to speak freely. I says, yeah, be my guest. No harm will come to you. He says, well, we won't give you a straight answer because we're afraid if we give you one that is wrong, you'll come over here and kill us. And by the way, killing a spirit can be done. In all honesty, YJ, I have no idea because I don't know what Joe Rogan's working with. This is one of those deep things. Hey, D-Worm, how you going? Oh, that's terrible. That really is. D-Worm goes, I'm late, not the pregnant kind. From my standpoint, I have no idea what Joe Rogan's up to because, well, frankly, I don't know who Joe Rogan is. Oh, okay, I read the wrong tank. Okay, I ran the wrong tank. I thought about the wrong tank, as in big tracks, huge barrel on the front end. Okay, sensory deprivation tanks absolutely work. I just don't have one. Yeah. No, it's not just salt, but because what they do is there's an additive they put in there to keep and to literally balance the electrolytic balance at the same time. Because in order to cut off all energy, all input, everything has to run smoothly. So it's got to be absolutely well and balanced. But do sensory deprivation chambers work? Absolutely they do. Okay. That same type of energy though, like I used to do the same thing. I did it really weird. I actually can't imagine me doing something off cuff, but I actually put myself into an absolute almost levitating trance while I was in the bar one day. Okay. I even remember the song I used to bounce off it. Okay. Well, I used to. But no, I was sitting in a bar and I dropped myself into a trance. It was great. The look on everybody else's face was a little twisted. Yeah, well, that's just it. Lazarus is just going, the what, the still, that, well, he says, I'll keep it short and on point. Still scares my mom to death till this day what happened that night. I have no doubt about it. The fact of the matter is, well, magnesium sulfate is. The funny thing is, there are two types of chambers you use. One is a healing chamber. The other one is sensory deprivation. Healing chamber is used for literally doing what it says. Okay, and if you watch the show Stargate, they are talking about the Enneads healing chamber. That little coffin that they use is literally designed for that. Okay. Now, the nice part about it is some of what we're going to tap into, I will give you tools that you can work with, that you can try. Okay. But we'll keep to the safe ones, shall we? Some of the tools that I've got access to and some of the techniques I've learned are, yes, they work, but you really have to understand what you're going after to start with. Okay. Where are we here? Now we are coming down to the end here. And with that in mind, if you do like the stream, absolutely do give us a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel and do me a favor and share it to everybody available. Especially the ones you don't like. Because if you don't like them in the first place, they'll come in here going, okay, what's this all about? Right. But it still means we're spreading the word to the people that really require it. Everybody out there has got to get the message that working together, we can make this a better world for virtually everybody. Now, with that said, guys, I am going to bring this to a close, but thank you so much for joining me. And until we meet again, take care of yourselves and each other. And for pity's sakes, stay positive.